All right, guys, welcome. Live stream should be starting up right now. Hope you guys are having a good Monday so far. We got a nice 7-game slate to talk about for NBA DFS, and once again, we have no shortage of a lot of players out, a lot of player status up in the air. We now might have Trae Young playing. He had one negative test. He has to have one more so he can return. So there's a possibility he comes back, and that would definitely affect the Atlanta value. We don't know the status of Damian Lillard. That's in a late game. He's questionable due to personal reasons. So should once again be a pretty fun slate, and one that you just had to keep an eye on news, right? Be ready to make changes. Be willing to make updates, and let's get into some questions, guys. So this will be a Q&A live stream, so make sure to leave some questions in the chat. Again, my main source for news right now is Underdog. Now we have one example of news continuing to change. Now Cody Martin's available to play. That's one more body in the rotation, so that makes Jalen McDaniels a little bit less appealing with one extra body in the rotation. You have Nick Batum now out. Morris, there's just so much news that is subject to change. Right, the big news here, like Dame, Smart, KPJ, Green, Beverly, Marcus Morris, and possibly Trae Young now as well. So again, guys, be up to date. And let's get to some questions, guys. Oh, if you do enjoy these free live streams, just make sure to hit that like button. It does help me out a ton. Closing in on the 11,000 subscriber mark on YouTube as well. So make sure to subscribe if you do enjoy. That would be greatly, greatly appreciated. But all right, let's get to some questions. So how many minutes does Knight play? So have they added Greg Monroe to the player pool yet? I don't see it yet on my end, but he is going to be available. No, I'm under the assumption that Nathan Knight will start. And assuming he starts, I think he probably plays at least mid-20s minutes, possibly more if he stays out of foul trouble right there. Just a super short-handed team. Boston does have a bigger front court with guys like Horford and in Robert Williams, so I don't necessarily think Minnesota can go small. But I don't think Nathan Knight's a bad option either. He showed in limited action in Atlanta last year what he could do. He showed in the Summer League what he can do. He's a solid player, a good point per minute guy. So I'm thinking if he stays out of foul trouble, probably mid-20s minutes with Greg Monroe backing him up. What's up, man? Appreciate the live stream. Hey, man. Yeah, no problem. Love talking these NBA DFS slates, and this one should be a fun one. Skylar Mays or Ingles. So that's going to come down to the status of Trae Young. If Trae Young is in, it's definitely going to be Ingles for me. If Trae Young is out, I think it's pretty close, because I would think Skylar Mays probably has to play some pretty significant minutes if Trae Young is out. So just monitor the status there. Sorry, I can't talk. Ingles without Donovan Mitchell, I'm expecting him to start and probably play close to that 30-minute mark, which would make him a good value. So Trae Young news is going to be big for that one. Full-time job. Yeah, NBA DFS is a full-time job at this point right now with all the news. You just basically have to be working from the start of the games until the end of the games, and keeping an eye on news, and be ready to make late swaps and stuff like that. What's up, man? So many good options tonight. Yeah, there's a lot of good options. So that's another tough part, is there's a lot of good value once again. So trying to differentiate the good value from the great value is a little bit tricky. Also, there's question marks, which throws a wrench into things, right? Like, for example, the Portland value, that's going to look a lot better if Damian Lillard gets ruled out. But we probably won't get that news until some of these earlier games start. So a lot of question marks for sure. Knight, Ibaka, or Ingles? I think it's Nathan Knight for me, assuming he starts, and I do think he does. Ibaka is a solid contrarian play. He's going to play the backup 5. Nathan Knight, I think if he stays out of foul trouble, starts and probably plays mid to high 20s minutes, maybe a little bit more. Derek White. Yeah, so I like Derek White. Again, he barely played last game just because the game was never competitive and he didn't really need to. Only played 16 minutes, but smashed in that time. So he's going to be the main ball handler with DeJounte Murray out. And Utah, they're known for being a good defensive team, but they haven't been as good this year. So, I think Derek White's a really solid play in the mid-range that probably goes a little bit overlooked. It's tough, though, because there's so many options. So we'll see what the ownership comes to for Derek White. But I think the matchup against the Jazz might keep that ownership relatively low. And if you played him last night, you got really unlucky, right? He was on pace for a massive game, and they just didn't have to play him because they were up by 30 at the end of the first quarter. Horford or Wood? Wood. I'm not really interested in Horford at this price point. I mean, it's almost 7K it's fine, but like there's so many good options in the mid-range. I think Wood is the upside play here against Charlotte. He's probably going to get low 30s minutes, and we've been wanting to target bigs against Charlotte all year. The only downside with Wood is the minutes haven't been as high in him recently. Like early in the year, he was playing 37, 38 minutes. Now he's playing in competitive games like 30 to 31 minutes, so that's the downside there. If Marcus Smart does get ruled out, though, that's going to be one less body in the rotation for Boston. So then just by default, Horford might have to play more. So he would be playable if Marcus Smart is out. If Marcus Smart is in, I just think there's probably better options than Horford. LaMelo Ball tonight, low ownership. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be super popular. I don't. Nice thing, too, is he has shooting guard eligibility, even though he's not a shooting guard at all. He only played 25 minutes last game. That was because the bench made a run. And there's just times where the Hornets coach will just bench the starters. It's pretty frustrating. But I think more often than not, we get probably mid-30s minutes for LaMelo Ball, which I think makes him a good spend-up. I think he's going to go overlooked when you have other guys in this price range, like a Harden, like a Jaylen Brown with everyone out for Boston. So I think LaMelo kind of flies under the radar, but that matchup against Houston is phenomenal. And if Houston can keep the game competitive, you might see like a 60 bomb from LaMelo, and I agree. I think he will come in at low ownership. Guys, we're already at 60 viewers, 17 likes. Really appreciate everyone coming to check out the live stream. I'll be live for another 20 minutes answering some questions. Make sure if you do have any questions, just leave them in the chat. And if you enjoy, and just hit the like button and subscribe as well. Let's see. Conchar, Boston, Jalen McDaniels, or Layman. Yeah, so that's McDaniels now doesn't... I mean, he still looks decent, but with Martin in, he becomes a little bit riskier. I will still say McDaniels, though, because without PJ Washington, without Bridges, I do think there's still a decent amount of minutes there for him. Oh, wait, hold on. I always get confused with the J... Is Jalen... Yeah, Jalen's the one on Charlotte. Okay. Those two and the Martin twins always confuse me. Jalen and Jaden McDaniels. Both McDaniels are in play. Are there any guys on 10-day contracts viable? I feel like those guys are going to be going all out like Stanley Johnson did. I'm trying to think who I would consider on a 10-day contract. Maybe a guy like Lance Stevenson if Trae Young is out. Like there's a chance he could start, but... not a ton of interest in those 10-day contract guys because unless the team is like extremely shorthanded, they're not getting a lot of run. Larry Nance, yeah, I mean Portland's thin up front, right? So like, who else is going to play big minutes for this Portland team in the front court? No Nurkic, no Covington, no Cody Zeller, no Watford. It's kind of Larry Nance, and they might have to go small ball with like Nasir Little. Greg Brown might have to play a little bit too for this Portland team. So I'm thinking we probably get, 35 plus minutes from Nance and probably the same for Little, which I think makes them both good options. Harden's still a must. There's never a must play. I think the way Harden's going to fail here is either blowout or a foul trouble. But yeah, if the game stays competitive, I mean, I think he looks great at this price point. So there's never a must play. You can get away with fading Harden if something weird happens and like gets an early foul trouble, the game turns into a massive blowout. Anything can happen. But I think he looks great there. Let's see. If Young plays, which Hawks players are still viable? So I still would have some interest in those wings in the big in Clint Capella. But we'll probably take the value guys out of play. So a guy like Skylar May, Stevenson, those options probably come out of play. But guys like Reddish, Bogdanovich, and Capella would still be viable. They just wouldn't look as good because, the usage would be dominated by Trae Young. But you would still probably see like mid-30s minutes some guys like Reddish and Bogdanovich. Probably, low to mid-30s from Capella as well. So those guys would all still be in play. The value would definitely take a hit, though. Harden's a tough one for me to fade tonight. I mean, weird stuff can happen, right? A player can be in a great spot, and it's possible it can bust. But, the price didn't move a ton on Harden, and he's still going to play like huge minutes for a shorthanded team. I'm not really scared of the Clippers defensively. He is probably going to play close to 40 minutes. So I think he looks good. Let's see. Do we have any other further updates? Did anyone else get ruled out since we started the stream about 10 minutes ago? Let's take a look there. Wiggins down the player pool. That doesn't mean anything to me. Aaron Wiggins, that is. Okay, so no other further updates. Guys, again, just make sure to leave questions in the chat. Happy to answer anything. Let's see. Football game tonight should be an interesting one. Not super excited for it. Low total game, but hey, you do have NFL and NBA on tonight, so that's a positive. NBA, like the schedule this week looks pretty good. I believe there's like no small slates, and like every slate is like 6, 7, 8 games. Like it's a perfect size slate for NBA this week. Like Tuesday, I think we have like 7 or 8 games. Wednesday looks like the same thing. Thursday, we have a 4-game slate, but that's still not bad. That's on the smaller end, but still playable. Friday, I think we have like a 10-gamer. But it's a nice size slate for each day, which is really good. Instead of those, 13-game slates one day and 3-game slates the other, I really like when we have, slates like this size consistently. Patty Mills or Brunson? Yeah, for me, it's pretty clearly Jalen Brunson. I know Patty Mills had a good game last game, but I much prefer the play in Jalen Brunson. Should play close to 40 minutes, and he's a guy that is in a good spot as well. So for me, it's Brunson over Patty Mills. Yeah, I mean, Jaylen Brown looks really good. He's going to look really good here without Tatum, possibly without Marcus Smart, no Schroeder as well. So he's going to have to do a lot offensively. Yeah, he looks good. Gobert's ownership looking like? It's going to be low because Gobert doesn't really get a massive boost with Mitchell off the court. It's not like Rudy Gobert is not really a guy they post up, right? He gets a lot of his points from like offensive rebounds, putbacks, and block shots. So it's not like all of a sudden when Donovan and Mitchell out there going to start posting up Rudy Gobert. So at this price point, I think he doesn't stand out to me at all. Let's see. How much do you recommend playing personally? It depends on your bankroll. Brunson or Derek White? Yeah, it's a good question. It's pretty close. Point per dollar, it's probably Derek White, but straight up, it's probably Brunson. There's enough value to comfortably play Harden, LaMelo, and Jaylen Brown in a lineup. I think there's enough value to get those 3 guys in if you want to. Kind of that complete stars and scrubs build. Yeah, I think that's totally doable. You don't have to go that route. There's a lot of solid plays in the mid-range as well. But there's enough teams that are shorthanded that I think you can get 3 stars in there. How does KP not go off when the biggest Blazer is 6'8"? Yeah, I mean, Porzingis is in a really good spot here, right? And the Blazers are not solid defensively. Like, Larry Nance is an undersized 5, and they have no one besides him. So, like, Porzingis is, I don't know if he'll be super popular. We'll see. But he looks really good in my opinion. Top 3 values. Yeah, we'll go over that on patreon.com if you want more in-depth content. Player pools, core plays, and really focusing on game theory, live streams before lock every single day. That's over on patreon.com. More info down below there. Thoughts on Brandon Boston? I think he'll be over-owned after last game. You have to see what happened in that game. Luke Kennard got in massive foul trouble, picked up like 5 fouls in 10 minutes. That's most likely not going to happen again. Boston, I mean, rookie, he's a guy that, does have some potential in this league, but he played a lot more last game due to that foul trouble. Now, zoom out. If Marcus Morris comes back, though, I think that kind of neutralizes it. So that's the key, right? If Morris ends up playing, then there's not much interest in Boston. If Morris is out too, then Boston becomes more playable. They might add Winslow to the rotation. But again, that last game, the reason he played a lot more was Luke Kennard got in severe foul trouble. So I don't think that happens again, right? I don't think Luke Kennard picks up 5 fouls in 10 minutes. So be careful with a guy like Boston. I think the ownership will be inflated. And if Marcus Morris plays especially, I think he goes back down to the low 20s minutes, which would not make him a great option. All right, let's see. I mean, it really depends on your risk tolerance, right? So if you want to play safer, you have $750 bankroll, probably 5% a night. Harden, Reddish, Brown, Cam Johnson, Knight, Beasley, Little, and Clarkson. I don't see any issues with that. Again, those Utah guys obviously get a boosted out down to Mitchell. They look pretty good. Can't trust Jaylen Brown in a game that might blow out, aka similar to Derek White, only played 19 minutes last game. You think Boston blows out Minnesota? I mean, Boston's still missing a lot of guys, too. They have Tatum out. They have Schroeder out. If Smart's out, too, I mean, they have, 3 starters? I know Minnesota's pretty shorthanded, but, Malik Beasley can keep them in it. So, and they're playing at home, too. So, I wouldn't necessarily avoid Jaylen Brown because of blowout. Because if the game stays competitive, I think he can have a smash game. Blazers Mavs stack. Yeah, I like that. Just keep an eye on Damian Lillard news, right? Lillard would make a decent spend up. Let's just say, for example, Damian Lillard gets ruled in after a lot of those early games start, he's probably going to come in at very low ownership. So one thing you could do is you could leave a spot for Dame, and then possibly if he gets ruled out, you can maybe move to Simons and then upgrade somewhere else. But I do think if Dame gets ruled in way after lock, his ownership will be very, very low, which would make him a really good tournament play. Nope, still no news on Damon Morris. Harden, Beasley, Brown, McDaniels, Knight, Clarkson, Little, and Bogdanovich. Again, just keep an eye on Hawks news with Trae Young. That's going to be pretty important. But I see no issues with that. Nance McDaniels on Minnesota, Little or Reddish. It's a good question. I will say Larry Nance with him playing the 5, but I think all 4 of those guys look pretty good. Now, if Trae Young gets ruled out, then it might be a lean to Reddish there, who's probably going to play close to 40 minutes. Like with DeLon Wright out too, if Trae Young is out, you're probably going to see in a competitive game Bogdanovich and Reddish push that 40-minute mark, with those two really dominating the usage and Capella kind of cleaning the glass. Ja's a sneaky play tonight. I agree. I don't think Ja gets much ownership. He did not play in the fourth quarter last game, or got his minutes very limited. So I think in a competitive game, we probably see mid-30s minutes from Ja. And I think he's a decent contrarian spend-up. I agree. I don't think he's getting much ownership. Pritchard or Smart is out. Yeah, Pritchard's going to look – he's already been playing well off the bench. Peyton Pritchard, that is. But if there's no Jaylen Brown – or if there's no Marcus Smart as well, I would think he starts. And if he starts, we probably see that those minutes go from like mid-20s to like maybe mid-30s. So, Pritchard will look really solid if he ends up picking up the start there for Marcus Smart. So obviously keep an eye on that one. Conley or Bledsoe is a good question. I think I would lean Bledsoe. I think the upside's a little bit higher on him. We saw Bledsoe play a lot last game and really dominate that usage for the Clippers. He played 37 minutes, where Conley's minutes are not necessarily going to go up, right? The Jazz are still a deep team. So with Mitchell out, yes, Conley does get a bump, but they can still, a lot of different guys can score. Joe Ingles can step up. You can have Rudy Gay step up. Clarkson off the bench is obviously going to demand more usage. Whereas the Clippers, it's like, all right, if it's not Bledsoe, it's Terrence Mann? The Clippers are a lot more shorthanded than the Jazz. So for me, I would rather go to Bledsoe over Conley. Also, I think he can play more minutes than Mike Conley can. Once again, honest to God, thank you. I'll be joining Patreon January 1st. Hey, man. Yeah, no problem. Happy to do these live streams. Happy to answer questions. So I will see you over on Patreon in a couple days. Bledsoe, Beasley, Nance, or Reddish. Of those 4 guys, straight up, it's going to be Bledsoe. Point per dollar, it's a different question. But, yeah, straight up, I think Bledsoe. He is going to probably play mid-30s minutes. The Nets, I'm not really scared of them defensively. I think he looks pretty good. All right, let's check up on news again. Do we have any other players ruled out here? Let's see. It's now 5:20. So, yeah, guys, I'll be live for another 10 minutes. Again, any questions, leave them in the chat. Happy to answer. We are at about 100 concurrent viewers and 32 likes. So, thank you to everyone coming to check out the earlier live stream today. Let's see. Do you have any other questions? I think we're up to date on everything right now. So, news-wise, again, we will Houston guards are questionable in KPJ and Jalen Green. Those are 2 pieces of news to keep an eye on. Guys like Gordon, Brooks, and Christopher could become in play if those 2 guys are out. Again, we went over Atlanta. Trae Young is the big one now because I'm not sure when we will get this news. This is a 7:30 game, so it's an early game. I'm not sure when they test him, but I would assume it's somewhat soon. We're going to get this news on Trae Young because I don't think they test him 30 minutes before the game starts. So, I would think we get this Trae Young news relatively soon. And if Trae Young ends up playing, I think he's going to make for a pretty good spend up here just because it's he's going to have to do a lot for this team, assuming no limitations, right? Now, we have seen some stars come back from COVID and they've kind of taken easy on the limit or on the minutes or a player sitting out a game, getting ready, they're conditioning up. But assuming no limitations of Trae Young plays, I think he's going to make for a pretty good tournament option. Let's see. Do you like Zubac? Zubac is tricky because he's center only. What is the opportunity cost of going there? He had a really good game last game against Jokic, which I was a little bit surprised. He stayed out of foul trouble, played pretty well. With no Paul George, no Reggie Jackson, he is going to have a little bit more usage. And I'm not super scared of the Nets defensively in the front court of Blake Griffin, Nick Claxton, or Paul Millsap if he plays. So I think he's a fine play. The only concern is, again, the opportunity cost of using one of your center spots on a guy like Zubac. But he does have upside, and I don't like the minutes upside is kind of capped right now at like mid to high 20s because Ibaka's getting that backup 5 run. And the Nets can go small too, so maybe there's a chance he doesn't close this game. There's a chance it could close the Ibaka, but he's still viable. It's just not like a smash play there for Vicha Zubac. Favorite team to target in general? Yeah, it's a good question. It's going to kind of come down to what ends up breaking with this news. So, like, if Trae Young gets ruled out, I think Atlanta looks great. If Damian Lillard gets ruled out, I think Portland looks great. So, a little bit hard to say right now. So, yeah, tough one answer without knowing which stars are going to give it a go and which aren't. Mann, Kennard, or Bruce Brown? Yeah, that's a good question. Of those three, I think I would feel the most confident with Terrence Mann. I do like Bruce Brown for value there in the Nets, but obviously that usage is going to be dominated by Harden. Whereas the Clippers, it's like, all right, you have a combo of like Terrence Mann and Bledsoe and Kennard going to be really doing a lot for that offense. So of those three, I think I would feel the most confident with Terrence Mann. He almost had a triple-double last game. He's a guy that can contribute in a lot of different ways. Whereas Bruce Brown, we know at times can disappear. At times his minutes can disappear too, thanks to Steve Nash. But the answer there for me is going to be Terrence Mann. So yeah. Let's see. Let's take a look at his prize picks board. See if anything stands out here. I think it's, looking pretty solid. I do think again, like a guy like Malik Beasley, right? If you think that game's his competitive, you can lean the over there. Same with like Jaylen Brown, right? So those two are like a nice pairing. You could pair them both and go over because if the game says competitive, we're probably seeing a pretty big game from Brown. And if the game says competitive from Minnesota, it's most likely Malik Beasley kind of dominating that usage. So that would be like a nice pairing to take the overs there. Or on the opposite side of it, again, if you think the game turns into a massive blowout, that's where you could take like the under on both. So definitely some game theory involved too there with Thrive. Thanks, UK. You're the go. Yeah, man, no problem. Trae or Dame if both are in? That's a good question. That's a really good question. I'll say Dame because he's, $400 cheaper, I believe, right? Yeah, Dame's 10-1, Trae is 10-5. 10-5, yeah. So I'm going to say Dame there, but that's almost a coin flip. And I'll say Dame too because maybe there's a chance they kind of take it easy on Trae Young's minutes. But I guess, didn't he say he wasn't experiencing any symptoms? So I'll say Dame. You have LaMelo, Harden, Gobert, and Brunson or Bledsoe. Again, Gobert is the one guy that I don't love. Like as I said before, it's not like they're going to post up Rudy Gobert a ton. It's going to be a lot more usage. The guys that get the biggest bump are, Conley, Clarkson, Ingles. Those guys have to do a lot more offensively where they're not going to all of a sudden start posting up Rudy Gobert like he's Joel Embiid, right? Gobert is just a shot blocker, a rebounder. That's where he gets a lot of his points, offensive glass and blocks and stuff like that. Not a lot from running offense to Rudy Gobert or alley-oops, right? That's where Rudy Gobert is getting a lot of his points. Coffee or Bembry? I'm not really looking to Amir Coffee. He's a low usage guy, and there's just so many other value plays in the slate. I think the upside is way higher on. I would rather go to Bembry. I don't love the play in Bembry, but he did start last game. He did play almost 30 minutes. So I would feel a little more comfortable with Bembry, but neither value plays I love with those two. Favorite play in the Miami-New Orleans game? Is that a game tomorrow? I'm confused. How popular do you think Triple J will be? He's going to be unowned in my opinion. At his price point with Ja back, he's going to be super low owned. Now, Jaren Jackson Jr., this is still a guy that can go for 40-plus fantasy points with John Morant in the lineup. It's just more often than not, he's going to be a headache for you. He's probably going to get an early foul trouble and you're going to tilt. So, no, the ownership, I think he'll be unowned. I don't think he gets any ownership. Little or Knight, that's a good. I mean, point per dollar. If Nathan Knight starts, probably small lean there. But I think both look really good. I think Trey gets his. And do you think Trey gets his full minutes? He's been playing 20 to 30 from the last 3 games. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, with Trey is, again, he said he wasn't experiencing any symptoms. So I think if he plays, there'd be no limitations. He would play as 34 to 36 minutes, possibly a little bit more with Atlanta being very shorthanded. DK, you hoop in high school? Yeah, for a year I did. But I was small. I didn't get my growth spurt until like later in my sophomore year. Like I was like 5'4", 5'5" going into high school, and like everyone else on the team was like really, really tall. But yeah, luckily I did get that growth spurt eventually. But yeah, I hoop for a year. I still hoop here and there, pick up games. I like playing basketball. James Johnson, I think he's a decent contrarian value play. I don't think he gets a ton of ownership, but with James Johnson, we're probably going to get low to mid 20s minutes off the bench. He's a guy, again, that can contribute in a lot of different ways. Can get some blocks, some steals, some rebounds. So I think he's a decent contrarian option. Let's see. 3 Minnesota players too much? If you think the game stays competitive, no, right? Because it's like, all right, you look at Minnesota, you look at their top 3 guys out, you look at Vanderbilt and Nasrid out. We're waiting on the status of Pat Beverly. Like, who is going to score the ball for this team? Malik Beasley, 6.2K, probably going to be their go-to guy. McDaniels probably have to do a lot more. The only issue I have with McDaniels is the price is up on him, right? He was like low 3s. Now he's 5.1K. He's also very prone to foul trouble. So like my concern with McDaniels is I think he'll be over-owned today. I do think he's going to have a lot more usage. But again, I think he has a little bit of risk involved. And I'm curious to see like who starts, right? If Pat Beverly is out, who is starting for this team, right? It's probably going to be Beasley, McDaniels, Nathan Knight. Does Layman start? Does Noel start? Like, they don't have a ton of options here. How about the McDaniels brothers? I think both are in play, yeah. DK triple-double. I'm a guy that can contribute in a lot of different ways, yeah. Boston, Plumlee, Conchar, or Jalen McDaniels. Let's see. Of those 4, that's a good question. I'll say McDaniels. Even with Cody Martin back, I still think there's enough run with Bridges out. Like McDaniels has been playing what? Like mid to high 20s minutes, 27, 26, 28 minutes. And he's a guy, again, that can do it in a lot of different ways. Well, now you have no PJ Washington, right? PJ Washington, he played the last game. He played 27 minutes. That's one less body in the rotation. Cody Martin had been out, but I still, like, he probably goes to like mid 20s minutes. And then you have Bridges that is out as well. So like his like 30 plus minutes have to go somewhere too. So you're Xing out Bridges and PJ from the rotation. You're gaining Cody Martin, but I still think McDaniels' minutes are around the same, maybe even a little bit more. Like I'm curious. So who do they start, right? Plumlee's going to start at the 5, LaMelo, Rozier, Hayward starting. Does Oubre start, or do they start a guy like McDaniels? I'm curious. All right, guys, we're coming up on the 30-minute mark. So any other questions, happy to answer. Is LaMelo Ball in play? Yeah, I think LaMelo Ball with the other spin-ups in the slate will be relatively low owned. But he's a guy that can go for 60 easily, right? In the spot, he has a lot of upside, no Bridges, probably a little bit more usage for a guy like LaMelo. So he looks good. Also, again, a positive is he has shooting guard eligibility. You were 6 foot power forward in high school. Hey, there you go. I'm 6 foot now. But again, my early years of high school, I was short. I didn't get my growth spurt until like mid to late sophomore year. That's relatively tall in high school for sure. John Morant limited to 30 minutes, blowout, right? So when did he get pulled? I wasn't really keeping track of the game last night, so I'm not 100. I don't have this like. Let's see. When did John Morant get pulled? I'm just gonna bring it up on my phone, SportsCenter app. But yeah, that blowout like definitely hurt him. So let's see. Ja. Did he play? So I don't even think he was on the court in the fourth quarter. Let me just confirm that. Oh, he did check in surprisingly did check in for a little bit in the fourth quarter, midway through the fourth, but played only like 3 minutes there. So he checked out in three minutes to go for Ja Morant. Plus it was a back-to-back, and like if they were trailing, he might have played a little bit more. This is a game you would think against Phoenix they're probably going to be playing from behind. So he might be asked to play like 35, 36 minutes here. So yeah, Ja technically lost 3 minutes in that game, but they were also playing from a huge lead. Knight get blowout run if the game blows out? That's a good question. I'm not sure. Right? Does Nathan Knight still get the blowout run, or do they go to a guy like Greg Monroe recently signed? I'm not sure. I would think the backup gets the blowout run in Greg Monroe, but yeah, I can't say that for sure. Tate is out. Did we just get news? Jayshawn Tate? Let's see. Kevin Porter Jr. available but unlikely to play. Kenny Martin enter health and safety. Oh, so Kenny Martin and Jayshawn Tate both entered the protocols. We have KPJ unlikely to play. Do we have news on Jalen Green? Because I know he was questionable too, I believe with a hamstring. Jalen Green available but unlikely to play Monday as well. Okay, so now Houston becomes a team where they're at least these guys are viable now, right? So we have Jayshawn Tate that is not playing. He was getting like close to 30 minutes a game or around there. KPJ and Jalen Green now both unlikely to play. So who's going to start for this team? Wood's going to start. Eric Gordon's going to start. Brooks is going to start. And probably a guy like Christopher moves in the starting lineup. Maybe David Nwaba. All right, like I'm curious to see who they start. But now we have some potential value here for Houston, depending on what they do to the starting lineup. But short-handed in a good matchup, then yeah, I think you can consider some of these value plays like a Christopher, like an Amani Brooks, with those two guards out, plus Jayshawn Tate out as well. Also, a little bit of a boost for a guy like Christian Wood, who is in a really good spot. Again, the only concern is the minutes with him, but maybe this is a game where his minutes go up a bit because they have to rely on him a little bit more. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to do it for the live stream. Stay on a little bit later. But really appreciate you guys can come and check it out. I hope you guys all have a great night. Enjoy the 7-game slate. Hopefully have some good games. Keep an eye on news, obviously. And I will see you guys back here tomorrow. I'll have a YouTube video up breaking down tomorrow's slate later tonight as well. So Sengun, yeah, but they just don't want to play Sengun minutes. And they really don't want to play him alongside Wood too much. So if he starts alongside Wood, then yeah, I have some interest in. But guys, just frustrating the amount of minutes he's getting right now. And I think he is the best player in the rookie class. He's just not getting the run. Again, that's a hot take, I know, but I think Sengun is the best player in this rookie class. All right, guys, good luck. I will see you back here tomorrow. Really appreciate you guys coming to check out the live stream.